I love my country. I have a flag in my window. And by the way, I'm not white. I'm a brown person, but I love my country.
But is it, Amy?
I'm sorry. It's really weird to hear a migrant who chooses to come to this country to then say he is frightened of the emblem of this country. If you're frightened of the emblem of the country,
but Gavin points out that it's something loaded.
The St George's flag represents working people. I think it's really representative of sports events, particularly football events.
Well, that's a great case for it, because around those times, fair enough.
Fine.
Excuse me? What do you mean, fair enough? No one gets to tell the English people the only time they can fly their flag is when England are playing. We are in England and we'll fly the flag whenever we feel like it, not just at sporting events. Apparently, NHS workers are scared to walk down a certain street in London on their way to work because it's lined with our national flags. Pretty sure flags would be the least of their worries walking around certain parts of London. It's ridiculous that we even have these discussions. One woman phoned in to say she loves her country and has a flag in her window, and she also said she's not white, which is great. Another guy who identified as gay called in to say if he sees a pub covered in flags, he's definitely not going in there for lunch. Just nonsense. I used to go all over with my ex, and sometimes we ended up in such a pub. I remember one that was definitely what you would call rough. The landlord was an ex-hardcore football hooligan and had a massive Rottweiler and a baseball bat behind the bar. It was quiet at first, then it got really busy. She's not white, and she felt way more comfortable than me. She was talking to loads of people, laughing and joking with football hooligans covered in tattoos, whilst other men were teaching her how to play pool. I was just stood there. I certainly wouldn't say I felt threatened later on, but at one point I did become a bit wary, knowing this is the kind of place you can definitely find trouble if you're not careful. It was me who wanted to leave, but I had to wait for her. All this nonsense about it's always non-white people who feel intimidated is just ridiculous. Those intimidated by those flags in London are probably immigrants who haven't been in the country that long. They don't understand this country. They just see the mainstream media constantly banning on about the far right, and that forms their judgment. It's the media trying to portray the flags as racist and divisive, and it's simply not working. The more they say it, the more people will put flags up. Take a listen.
I'm in an area where it is very working class, where I grew up, and I see it around there. I wouldn't say it's openly hostile towards Black and Asian people, but there are places in the country where that absolutely is the vibe.
Were you born here, Gavin?
I was born here.
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
But you see, I just think anyone who was anyone who's born in this, but particularly people who are born in this country, why would you be intimidated or frightened by the English flag? You know, the reason there's been an upsurge in the national flag is because in this multicultural country that we now live in, many English, British people are made to feel that our culture is divisive, that it's offensive to people. And so the upsurge in the flags is not to do with immigration, it's to do with British people being told that their culture is offensive to other people. You know, I heard someone who was a migrant to this country saying that they feel uncomfortable walking down the street where the St George's flags. I'm sorry, it's really weird to hear a migrant who chooses to come to this country to then say he is frightened of the emblem of this country. If you're frightened of the emblem of the country,
but Gavin points out that it's something loaded onto it.
That's exactly
not loaded.
For some it is.
But it is loaded for...
for me...
The direct response to the threat of the values of what being British is. And a lot of people are scared by that. They're scared of being, taken over by migrants.
Why would you be uneasy about people getting upset about the erosion of British values? Why would that upset you? You're a Brit. You were born here.
Completely.
Why would that upset you?
It doesn't upset me. I just feel the vibe change, that it's less welcoming to be in certain areas of the country where recent flags have popped up from certain people who feel a certain way.
Would the St George's flag represents working people? I think it's really representative of sports events, particularly football events.
Well, that's a great case for it, because around those times, fair enough.
Euros final.